Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Sean. I'm back for another video and welcome back to another review for Insecure. This is season 5, episode 9 out, okay? One of my favorite episodes, if not my favorite episode of the season. Action packed with every single scene. It definitely moved the plot along. You see so much of the character development. It was everything that I needed it to be. So I'm really excited about reviewing this week's episode. But if you missed my previous episode or any of the other episodes from the season, check the entire Insecure Season 5 playlist. And also, if you like videos like this one, commentary, dating advice, little fashion, a little bit of everything, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And while you're at it, tap that little bell. That way you will be notified every single time I upload a video. And you do not want to miss next week's finale, my review and my recap of that as well. Without any further ado, let's jump to the review. So this episode starts off with Issa and Nathan. They are touring a possible place for them to live. The place is gorgeous. It's bright, well lit, plenty of space, and Issa and Nathan are getting along beautifully. They look like two newlyweds where they're kissing every little chance they get, and they look so in love. One of the complaints about this particular season is that the chemistry seemed off with Issa and Nathan. But this particular episode, they seemed like they were more lovey-dovey. It seemed a bit more natural. I don't know what it is. I don't know why the chemistry is like off and on with them. It's weird. But anyway, so they're touring the place and it's beautiful. And Issa's like, it's close to your shop. It's close to NBW's office. I can walk the Crenshaw. So it looks like she did decide that she is going to do both. That whole decision of like, what should I do, this or that? She decided that there's no reason why she can't do both, which is, to me, it's an easy decision to come to. You don't have to sacrifice one thing for the other. You can have a passion project and a steady paycheck at the same time. Like, I'm not mad at that. Anyway, so moving on to Issa and Nathan, they're taking a look at one of the guest bathrooms, and Issa makes a quick quip about how you can do whatever you want to do with the toilet seat in here because I know how you guys get down. And Nathan says, well, I don't know what kind of guys you're used to living with. And it's instantly awkward because, that brings Issa back to living with Lawrence, and he knows that. So sort of like Lawrence is the elephant in the room. It's what they don't want to discuss. Nathan knows it's a painful subject for Issa, and so does Issa. So they always try to tiptoe around it. They try never to mention his name, but you could always still sort of feel his presence. And I feel like he knows how much Issa is still hurt by this. This woman cried in his mouth about Lawrence. So he tries to avoid it, but I think in his heart, he knows she's not over it. So they're looking at the place and they're deciding that this is actually perfect for them. The location, the size, the opportunity to grow. It's close to Nathan's shop. It's close to NBW, all of that. Like they decide, okay, you know what? We think we're going to go for it. So they look over to the real estate agent and they're like, can we get an application? And that's when he finally tells them, you know what? Sorry about that. I actually sold this place about 5 minutes ago. And they're like, what? Then they turn on him. They're like, why would you even show it to us if you already sold it? So Issa turns to Nathan and she says, you better get him because if you don't get him, I'm going to get him. And it's funny. And it's how they start this week's episode. Next, we're at Molly's job and she's cackling with her coworkers. Love to see Molly getting along with them. But anyway, they see Taurean coming out of the boss's office and they're like, Taurean, what are you doing here so early talking to the bosses? They lose something in the cloud again. They're laughing about it. And one of the girls was like, what do they offer you, partner or something? And they all laugh about it. But Molly is looking at Taurean and she could read his face. And she's looking at him. She's like, they did offer you partner, didn't they? And he looks at Molly and he said, yes. And Molly immediately, instinctively, impulsively runs over to him and gives him this big hug. And they're holding eyes closed, just like close. And then Molly realizes what she did and where she did it and who she did it in front of. And then she was like, uh-oh. She's like, you guys better get in on this hug. And then they all have a group hug and they congratulate Taurean. Okay, it was too late because the coworkers already picked up on the intense chemistry between Molly and Taurean and they already figured it out. So this is a thing. Like, I really do love how they took the time with Molly's storyline and her character development. Like, I feel like Molly's storyline is ready for the season finale next week because everything has come full circle. Molly has learned, she's grown. They didn't rush this thing with Taurean. I feel like it's perfect. I also really like the fact that this shows how much Molly has grown. Molly was super duper competitive, had to be the best. The idea that Taurean got this offered to be a partner and she didn't, and she's genuinely happy for him, the old Molly would never do that. She genuinely likes him. Otherwise, she would have been like, how come him and not me? In the past, they both have been really competitive, but I like the fact that Molly doesn't see him as competition. A win for one of them feels like a win for both of them, and that's how you know you can win together, okay? So next we are with Lawrence. Lawrence is hanging out with Chad. I believe he always stays with Chad whenever he comes to LA, so it looks like he hasn't found his permanent place here. But anyway, this episode is rich with metaphors and double entendres because while Lawrence is looking for a place, he says, if I move again, it has to have everything that I'm looking for. I don't want to settle. To me, I kind of feel like he was feeling like that. If I move into another relationship again, it has to have everything. I think he's like low key talking about Issa also. At least that's how the way that I kind of took it. Like he's still like, if I'm gonna be in a relationship again, it's got to give me everything that I felt with Issa. At the end of season one, when Issa had that fantasy about what her life would be if she married Lawrence and had kids with him and all of that, I don't think she was the only one that had that dream. I think Lawrence did too. And so when you imagine your life to be a certain way and it's not, no matter what you do, it doesn't feel the same, doesn't feel as good. I think Lawrence is afraid to move or hesitant to move because he imagined doing all these things with Issa. I don't think it's about the place per se, but home could be a person, and for him, Issa is home. I feel like it's kind of weird for him to call a place home if she's not there. So Lawrence tells Chad that he's probably not going to Derek and Tiffany's going away party, and Chad's like, why? Then he lets him know, well, Issa's gonna be there. And he's like, what? And he was like, you let her go, you didn't fight for her, so like what's the problem? It looks like y'all parted ways peacefully, amicably. And Lawrence was like, what do you mean I didn't fight for her? And he was like, remember what I went through with Leah? You know, because I remember Chad went to a bachelor party and he went way too far with the strippers that were there. He did a lot to get back in her good graces. And he was like, that's what you do when you want somebody, you fight for them. And he's like, I couldn't make her be with me. But he was like, if it was me, there was nothing I wouldn't do to get her back. I really like how they brought all this full circle because they did show you a couple of seasons ago that Chad did go through the same thing. He lost his woman, fought for her, got her back. So it wasn't like this information was coming out of left field. He had personally been through this. Now, Chad is a bit of a caveman, and I prefer Derek and Derek's advice. It's always like love and feelings, very Iyanla, very peaceful, very kumbaya. But Chad still got a point. Even though he's very blunt and crass and all of that, even a broke clock is right twice a day. And that's what it's like with Chad. Every now and then he drops some gems, okay? So Issa and Nathan arrive at Tiffany and Derek's going away party. And of course, the vibe is really nice. So while talking to Tiffany, Derek, and Kelly, Issa lets it slip that she and Nathan are going to be moving in together. And they're all genuinely happy for her. And, you know, Tiffany's like, oh, you know, I'm going to be in Denver. I'm not even going to be able to see your new place, but I'm happy about it. You know, Tiffany is happy that she's moving. She's doing the best thing for her and her family, but you could tell she's clearly going to miss these girls. She's going to miss her life in California. She's trying to put on a brave face, but Derek can feel it. So anyway, also Molly and Taurean arrive. They're looking lovey-dovey as well, hand in hand. This is the happiest we've ever seen Molly. So Ja or Eli, depending on what parent you ask, arrives with his parents, Lawrence and Condola. And Lawrence kind of looks around and he spots Issa with Nathan. And you can tell by the look on his face, he's kind of like, it doesn't feel good to see her looking like she's moved on. She's happy. She's smiling with somebody else. Condola notices what Lawrence is staring at. She knows that it's Issa that has his attention, and she always has. She always will, girl. You know what? I'm not going to go there. But anyway, so she gets up, she excuses herself, and she kind of leaves Lawrence with the baby. And that's when Issa finally spots Lawrence with the baby, and she kind of has the same look on her face that he did, seeing what looks like Lawrence happy and moving on with somebody else. Doesn't make her feel good, but she doesn't mention any of that to Nathan. Nathan eventually spots Lawrence on his own and is like, is that old boy? And then she's like, oh yeah, that's him. And he's like, well, so he came down here to visit, or he came down here for this event? And then she's like, no, he actually did move back. And he's like, oh. Because that changes everything. Issa's not being 100% honest and open with Nathan. And if there's nothing there, why wouldn't she be? I couldn't help but notice Lawrence's shirt. This is not the first time in this series that Lawrence's shirt has told a story using hearts. This one is two hearts with two sets of eyes on it. And it kind of makes me feel that no matter who they're with, their hearts only see each other. It doesn't matter how we all feel about Issa's cheating with Daniel and Lawrence having a break baby. The heart wants what the heart wants. And despite everything that they've been through, they cannot help but be drawn to each other. So Tiffany gets everybody's attention so that she could give her farewell toast. And while she's doing that, Lawrence and Issa finally lock eyes and they see each other. And you could feel the chemistry. You could feel it. It's still there. So while Tiffany is giving her toast, she's like, I'm glad that all of you are here. Oh, and Dro. And girl, I feel like we all collectively had a gasp. What is this tall, random dude doing here? So Molly audibly is like, oh no. And she says it out loud. She's a little bit high, so she doesn't realize how loud she is and that everybody heard her. But, Dro sees Molly. He's with a new girl now that isn't Candace. Derek is hanging out with the boys and he's talking about some of the things that he's going to miss the most about LA. And he mentions the food. And so, he's just like, you guys have all of the bomb places, sushi, barbecue, all this. And so while he's saying this, Nathan chimes in and he was like, well, y'all, I love y'all weather, but y'all got to lay off the barbecue. So Dro and Lawrence are like, what are you talking about? Like, we got amazing bomb barbecue spots. And then so Nathan's like, I'm from Houston. So this is basically one of the things that we do well, that we do the best. Once you've had Houston barbecue, you don't want anything else. And that's when Lawrence says, well, it must not be that good because it can't keep anybody there. Ciao. Are we still talking about barbecue? Or are you still talking about the time that Issa called your phone 2 weeks ago while she was still supposed to be quote unquote happy with Nathan? Because it seemed like that's what you're trying to insinuate to me. Like, if your girl is happy, what's she calling me for? So the tension is thick, and Amal, Issa's brother, tries to, calm the situation down. He's like, you know what? My man thinks that I would look good with a Caesar. What do you think, Nathan? You free to cut my hair tomorrow? Why this brother gonna say, I can't because me and Issa still looking at apartments? Ooh, child, the level of petty was high in this episode. Lawrence's face was cracked. I was like, ooh, ooh. I mean, they going at it like two cats in a bag, honey. So while the boys are outside verbally tussling, the girls are inside toasting champagne, talking about how they're still going to keep in touch, how Tiffany's going to come back for Kelly's birthday, and they're all going to plan to be there for each other's birthday. So they're having a great time. They're just laughing and just enjoying themselves. And Molly starts laughing hysterically. And so it's really awkward. Everybody's looking at Molly because, like, whatever was said wasn't even that funny, but she's just laughing and laughing and laughing. And so Kelly eventually slaps her to snap her out of it. And that's when Molly admits that she and Torian did take edibles earlier and that she's high. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But they're laughing about it, having a great time. And in walks Condola with the baby. And she sucks all the air out of the room. It's a gasp, and everybody's like, hey. So thankfully, Issa didn't throw the baby like a jump shot. She just was very cordial with Condola, tells her, you guys are really doing a great job with him. Not that you need my, approval or anything, but you guys are really, you seem like you're doing a really good job. And Condola's like, I hear that you're doing really well with your business. I've heard about the work you've been doing with NBW. And, basically she has a friend that's kind of giving her a little bit of an update on Issa. So it's very cordial. It's very friendly. It's very light. They haven't really talked besides the fantasies that Issa has had in her mind. They haven't talked, but this time they talked and they were cordial. They were getting along well. And even though it was awkward, it was still friendly, and they needed to break the ice. They needed to have this conversation. Even though it was surface level, they needed to at least see if they could be in the same room together. And this scene proves that they can be. So Molly walks outside and she spots Dro. So she goes over to him and she's like, how are you doing? I already know that you have a divorce. And he's like, oh, my mom has a big mouth. I can't believe that she already told you. I wanted to be the one to tell you. Not that I want anything to happen between the two of us, but we used to be so much closer. That's the thing about Molly's relationship with Dro. They used to be best friends, childhood friends, and sex ruined that for them. But, so they're talking about it, and he's just like, we just weren't on the same page, and things just sometimes they don't work out, but I'm in a much better place. I met somebody, and she's like, I'm really happy for you. And he's like, the guy that you came here with seems like a really nice guy. And she's like, who, him? And Torian was literally standing right, right behind him. And so Molly spills all her own tea. She's like, this is a married man who used to be in an open relationship. We slept together a lot. But, it didn't work out and we're cool now. And Torian's like, cool. So Dro awkwardly walks off because all his tea has been spilled without his permission. So he goes over to his new girl, and Molly's like, so you understood everything that I was saying? And he was like, yeah, I used to sell Adderall to half my senior class. Like, basically, I have a past too. I'm not going to judge you for your past because I know that you're not going to judge me for mine. The acceptance. It's the acceptance for me. I really love the two of them together. They have grown on me so quick, but I really do like them together. The being happy for each other, the being open and honest. Molly did, she just told him, when you can tell somebody the ugliest, your deepest, darkest secrets that you're ashamed of, and they say, I don't care about that. I accept you, flaws and all. So I really like that. But anyways, we go on to Issa. She's over there by Nathan. Nathan just had that tense and awkward conversation with Lawrence, and he's different. He's colder than he was. They came in there warm and lovey-dovey, but Issa can tell that something's off, but she doesn't know what it is. So he tells her that Arik is here and that he's going to go out there and give him the key. And Issa kind of looks awkwardly because she's like, what made everything change so quickly? She can't put her finger on it, but she knows that something's off. So Condola and the baby and Lawrence are all together, and Condola lets Lawrence know that she had a talk with Issa, and he's like voice cracking and everything. Oh, how did that go? And she lets Lawrence know that it wasn't awkward. It might have been short and brief, but it was cordial, and she hates having awkward energy with people. So she was really glad that they were able to talk and, sort of to begin the whole, you know, movement towards like being more cordial and being okay with seeing each other again, outside of Lawrence. And so Lawrence is happy to hear that. And, Condola lets him know that she's getting ready to leave. The baby looks tired. And he's like, I can leave with you guys if you want. She's like, no, stay, enjoy the party. This might be the last time that you see them for a while. So go ahead and stay. So Lawrence is like, okay, that's fine. So while he's standing there, he sees Issa go over to Molly and he's looking at her like he always do, lovingly, longingly. But meanwhile, outside the party, Nathan is giving Arik the keys. And he's also letting Arik know that, Issa's ex is in there. Lawrence is in there and he feels kind of awkward. Lawrence is saying little slick stuff here and there. And he was like, if we could set it off if you want to, just let me know. And he's like, no, we don't got to do that. So I was just like, where was this energy when Suge was all up in this man's face telling him that he was crazy and bipolar? Why didn't you stand up for him then? So I told my husband that, and my husband was like, because that was one-on-one. One-on-one is a fair one. It's only not fair if there's like a group of guys and one guy. So he says he saw where Arik was coming from. I guess some kind of man thing. So later on in the party, Torian and Molly have the munchies. They're looking for mac and cheese balls. And I think it was really cute that Prentice, which is like, I think the producer of the show, has a nice little cameo. He always has a cameo at least once in a season. It kind of gives me like Stan Lee in the Marvel movies type vibe where it's like he's in there like once. But anyway, so they're looking around and they decide they're going to go and get all the hors d'oeuvres. So they go inside and there is this whole scene of gluttonous enjoyment. They're eating, just throwing food at each other and just catching it and eating it. They are pigging out. They're laughing, joking, having a great time. But somebody is coming, so they run into the pantry to hide from the little staff. And that's when they have this really nice conversation about what Molly's really afraid of with Torian. She confesses to him that she's having a really great time and she's afraid of how good a time that she's having. She's like, eventually, the guys in the past, they eventually get tired of her. And she's like, if you ever get tired of me, that is really going to hurt. And he's like, I'm somebody who hated you at first. And now I am really, really starting to like you. I am not going to get tired of you, Molly. And then they have this steamy sex scene. Now, Molly always leads with sex, but she didn't do that with Torian. She actually got to know him and let him get to know her first. They connected and bonded on deeper levels before it ever got physical. And that's why I feel like their relationship has the potential to last. Meanwhile, on the other end of the party, Issa is throwing away some trash, but while she turns around, she sees that it's Lawrence there. He's smiling from ear to ear, happy to see her, and she's like, hi. And they're having this sort of awkward hello that they always do. As much history as they have, and as long as they've been together, they're always still make each other nervous. And that's always kind of cute to me. But it goes from cute to crazy real quick. So, Lawrence starts talking to Issa, and he's like, why did you call me a couple of weeks ago? And Issa's like, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. That was a mistake. And he's like, was it a mistake that you called me? And she was like, no, I meant to call you, but I just shouldn't have. And he's like, when you broke up with me, I totally understood. I was moving. I had a baby on the way. I understood why we had to break up. But he was like, everything is different now. I'm different now. And I don't want to leave this party thinking that I should have said something, that I should have fought for you. And she was like, fight for me? I don't even think that would have really changed anything. And he was just like, I just want to let you know that I'm not happy without you and that I love you. Man, as soon as he said that, Nathan was like, what's all this? He was right there seeing some of the conversation go down, and it got awkward quick. Because Issa was like, nothing, we weren't talking about nothing. And Lawrence was like, no, we having a conversation. And he was like, what? Then there was some pushing and some shoving, and all I could hear was knuck if you buck in the background. in my head at least. You know, if I was Tiffany and Derek, I wouldn't invite Lawrence to another one of my events. This man caused a scene at Simone's first birthday party. Now he's causing a scene at the farewell dinner. Lawrence is not above causing a scene. I'm gonna need him to get it together. You are too smart to not have any kind of composure when you get out here in front of people. So, but anyway, that is pretty much it for this episode. You know, Molly comes to Issa immediately, like, "Girl, are you okay?" And she didn't say anything, but you could tell by her face she was not okay. Another party ruined thanks to Lawrence. But we got to talk about it. I'm not mad at what Lawrence said, but I'm mad where he said it and when he said it. You could have this conversation with Issa weeks ago. It's not like this isn't your going away party. Why you wait till this event? Why you wait till you see her happy with her man? Pull her to the side while she's with her man. You just like, why are you doing it here? You live in LA now. You could have been pulled her to the side and had this conversation. You gonna do this in front of her man? Like, what are you thinking? Like, you wanted all the smoke and you got some and you deserved it. So whether or not they're gonna be together is an aside. I think it's disrespectful that he did it the way that he did it and when he did it. And even where he did it. Like, come on, bruh. Like, have a little bit of class and dignity about yourself. Don't put her in an awkward position like this. But, you know, I feel even more convinced that Issa's going to end up with Lawrence, believe it or not, because of the wind down. They have interviewed every single character from the show. Kelly's been on there, Molly's been on there, even Nathan was on there last week, but they haven't interviewed Lawrence. And I think it's because she's going to end up with Lawrence and they're going to want to talk to him in the season finale. There's more to it than that. You know, having the conversation with Condola, even with Condola saying, "I want you to be happy," showing that Condola and Issa can get along, and all of that. I definitely feel like they're setting everything up to show you that it can still work. Um, if they end up together, that's fine. But my whole thing is Nathan didn't deserve to be a casualty of Lawrence and Issa's love. If they wanted to be together, if Lawrence and Issa was endgame, why did you give us so much of Nathan's backstory? Why did you allow us to fall in love with his character? Why did you do any of that just to break his heart? Issa didn't have to have a serious relationship. She's going to end up with Lawrence. At least with Condola, she knows that she and Lawrence don't have anything together. She won't be hurt. She's not trying to be with this man. They're just co-parenting happily. So his situation isn't messy. Why make Issa's situation messy? My prediction for the finale is this. I think that Molly and Kelly are going to start an estate planning business together. I think that Molly is going to leave the law firm, especially now that Taurean has been made a partner and she's a junior associate. I'm not sure if there's a fraternization policy there or anything, but still, I think that that's what she'd want to do. I don't think she wants to work with Taurean and still like date him, but I think this is a really good thing. They would kind of be good cop, bad cop because Molly's very serious and all about her business, and she's balanced out by Kelly and her lighthearted nature. I think they'd be really good business partners together because they complement each other with their strengths and weaknesses. I also think that, you know, Tina Fey is going to have a great life in Denver, but I think that Issa is going to end up with Lawrence, and I think that Nathan's actually going to be the one to break it off with Issa. I think he's going to give her a heartfelt speech about how he truly loves her and cares for her, but he's seen her and how she looks at Lawrence, the chemistry that they have, how she has never gotten over this man and she probably never will, and that he wants her to be happy. And if Lawrence makes her happy, that he loves her enough to let her go. I think it's going to be that kind of speech because otherwise Issa will be painted as the bad guy and they're not going to villainize the hero of the show. I think he's going to break it off and she's going to get the green light to go back and try it with Lawrence. Condola has already given Lawrence her blessing. They just need Nathan to give his to Issa. So that's pretty much it for this week's recap review. And this has also been a series finale prediction. I would love to hear you guys weigh in. What do you think is going to happen in the series finale? And then let's go back and look at some of the comments in my finale recap next week and see who was right, who nailed it. So I'm definitely going to be shouting out whoever was right in your predictions. So write your predictions below in the comment section. Don't forget to thumbs up this video. Also be sure to turn on that post notification, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next week for the series finale of Insecure Season 5. I'll see you guys in the next video. Till next time, later divas and dudes. Deuces, honey.